Thank you, Mary, and good morning, folks. What we've done here is we conducted a poll in Ohio. We interviewed 1,259 adults from the period of June 3rd to June 6th, and that has a margin of error of plus or minus 3.4. Of that group, 1,137 were registered voters with a margin of error of plus or minus 3.6. As Mary indicated, I'm trying just to give you some context and a little overview and some numbers about what we have looked for and what we found in the Buckeye State. So first of all, I think when we decide to do Ohio, as we do a lot of individual states around the country, I think we're looking less about or thinking less that we will find out anything interesting in terms of the electoral college, 17 electoral votes that Ohio will bestow upon either Trump or Biden, and that more about what the Senate race might show between Brown and Moreno. In that, in recent elections in 2016 and 2020, there was a very, very strong party vote for president and Senate of the same party. And in fact, that has been an unusual occurrence in American politics, and it never happened before. In 2016, it was everybody who voted for Trump also voted for the Republican. Everybody who voted for Clinton also voted for the Democrat for Senate. There was only one exception in Maine, and going back to 1920, when we first started with the popular vote for Senate, we haven't had that. So this is an interesting question as to whether the Trump vote will translate to the Republican candidate and therefore cause a change in the Senate, which is what perhaps Ohio is going to be better, more interesting about. So let's take a look and see what we found in this regard. So we did find that Trump was leading Biden by 7 points in Ohio. By point of reference, the number he carried in Ohio in 2016 was roughly 8 points, and it was the same 8 points roughly spread in 2020. So Donald Trump and Joe Biden are about running where they were in 2020, and Trump is running pretty much what he did against Hillary Clinton in 2016. But to get to the main point, Senator Sherrod Brown, the incumbent Democrat, is running 5 points ahead of his Republican challenger. And that becomes an important finding in this particular survey because it suggests that there's a significant split ticket voting going on. And as I say, in 2016 and in 2020, that did not occur. It was not the case. It has been in our history up until that point. So right now you have 10% of the Trump vote for president is actually going to Brown, the Democrat, and only 2% of the Biden vote is going to the Republican for Senate. So there's a net pickup for Brown in that race. So let me get you a little bit more on some of the numbers, and then I would be happy to take your questions. As I mentioned, it's a 7-point lead, 7 percentage point lead for former President Trump in terms of the toss-up with President Joe Biden. Among registered voters, we looked at definite voters and saw a 6-point difference. So a little change there, not too much. The problems for Biden in Ohio that are making matters worse for him than he might otherwise be are same kind of things we're seeing in other states right now. So he was even among independents 4 years ago, and now he's losing by 6 points. A big change among black voters, which he carried overwhelmingly 4 years ago, and now only by 32 points. A big lead still, but not anywhere near what he had. We're also seeing a significant change among younger voters, people up to age 35, where Biden was up by about 10 points roughly 4 years ago. Now he trails by 9 in that age group. So those are the three groups that Joe Biden is not doing as well in Ohio. And it's the same three groups he's not doing as well in other states that we've seen. The one group he's doing better in is among white voters, and he trailed white voters to Donald Trump by 21 points 4 years ago, and now that is down to 14 points. So he loses white voters, but he's doing better than he did. So there's some offsetting numbers going on here, and it's exactly what we're seeing, as I say, in other parts of the country. We do see in 2016 and in 2020, it was important to take a look at these so-called double haters, the people who have an unfavorable view of Trump and Biden, because those were interesting voters in 2016 and 2020. When you have two candidates whose favorability is upside down, we want to look at the group who dislike both of them. And in this case, there's 13% of Ohio voters say that they dislike both of these two choices. And in this instance, Trump is carrying a 13 percentage point advantage among that group over Biden, and Robert Kennedy gets about the same percentage as Biden in that group. So not surprisingly, if you don't like both of the two frontrunners, you might go for a lesser party candidate, and Kennedy gets the same 18%, as does Biden of that group, and Trump gets 31% of that group. So let me take one more dig into the presidential, then take a look at some of the Senate numbers in a little bit more detail. What is going on in terms of the presidential race? In this case, hindsight might not be a perfect measure. 2020 may not be as familiar to voters, or they may not recall it as they did back then, because right now, 59% believe that their families were better off under the Trump years, and only 39% think their families are better off during the Biden years. So what's happening here is the recall of what it was like when Trump was president is very different than what people feel in terms of their family situation right now. We also see that they feel the country was in better shape 4 years ago than it is now. So again, hindsight may not be 2020 in this case. I mentioned, turning to the Senate race for a second, I did mention about the split ticket voting, that is a phenomenon going on there, and that is really important when you take a look at the 50% who are going for the incumbent Sherrod Brown. He's running well ahead of what Joe Biden is in the state, and has a 5-point advantage over his challenger. One of the things that I think is interesting about the Bernie Moreno reaction to his candidacy is that Brown is favorably perceived by about 11 percentage points, so he's not upside down. He's actually more popular than not. Whereas the plurality of voters in Ohio, 39%, don't have an opinion on the Republican challenger. So there's still a ways to go in terms of his being more defined in terms of voters, and obviously he's going to try to do it in his terms and link his future to Donald Trump. And
Lee, if I could just jump in 1 second, I just want to clarify the 39% who unsure or never heard of Bernie Moreno is among Ohio adults. Among registered voters, it's 34%. So I just wanted to make that distinction.
Yep, thank you, Steph. And if I ever make a mistake, I know where the clarity is going to come from. So yeah, we try. Any case, what we're having is a case where clearly, Brown has distanced himself from his Democratic head of the ticket. Moreno happier to link his fortunes to Donald Trump. And just a couple other points that I think I wanted to make in terms of issues, and then maybe the impact of the Trump conviction on voters. In terms of issues, Ohio voters are more comfortable on most of the issues that are, top of mind for voters: the economy, immigration, America's place in the world stage, preserving democracy. That one is closer, but still an edge to Trump. And they divide evenly on the abortion question in terms of who can handle that better. Trump clearly has the advantage in terms of voter perceptions of how they did 4 years ago and the issues that they are thinking about right now. And part of that has to do with Biden's approval rating, which is substantially upside down in the state. Also, 36% of the state's residents, only 36%, I should say, approving of his performance and 59% disapproving. Clearly, also, the Trump conviction in this so-called hush money case in New York City did not have a huge impact. People, 45% agree with it. Overall, 29% think Trump did something unethical but not illegal, and 24% feel that Trump did nothing wrong, and that includes 49% of Republicans. So the plurality of Republicans are giving him a free ride on this. They think that there may be some ethical issues involved. They don't necessarily agree with the verdict. 10%, only 10% do. But a very different picture for Republicans and their reaction with Democrats. And the state divides as to whether the trial is about uncovering the truth or just making a political grandstand for the election this time. And that's, as I say, pretty much a 50-50 proposition. I think it's 50-49 on that. And I think I would stop right there. Hopefully you can be finding the release, looking at the release, and that you would then be able to look into some more detail on things that you like. And if not, I'm happy to take any questions that you might have, and would be happy after you digest it to take additional questions throughout the day or whenever you're writing a piece that might have to do with these races.